This is James Taylor, and you're listening to The Creative Life. The Creative Life podcast is a show created for you, the creative. If you're looking for inspiration, motivation, and advice while at home, at work, or on your daily commute, then this show is for you. Each episode brings you a successful creative, whether that's a musician, writer, artist, designer, performer, educator, or creative entrepreneur. They share their journey, their successes, their failures, their creative process, their insights, and much, much more. In this episode, I talk with the legendary guitarist Johnny Hiland, and we discuss his life of living without fear and the incredible career he's had as a guitarist. Enjoy the episode. Hey, it's James Taylor, and I'm excited to bring you our featured guest today. His name is Johnny Hiland, and Johnny is a legally blind Nashville-based guitarist and guitar educator. Johnny's career started in 2002, and by 2004, he had signed with Steve Vai's Favored Nations label. He has been on stage with Steve Vai, Joe Satriani, Bonamassa and Les Paul. And as a guitar teacher, he has created guitar courses for Truefire, Hotlicks, Melbay, and Jam Track Central. So, Johnny, welcome to the show.
Well, James, thank you, buddy. I appreciate you having me on.
So, share with our listeners what's going on in your world just now.
Man, I got some exciting news, James. I'm really excited to let all my fans know out there that I just signed on with Crush Worldwide for new management booking, and we are getting ready to release a brand new record and get on the road and start touring like madmen.
So how many days of the year are you on the road, and how much are you kind of doing the teaching thing?
You know, man, we're planning on being out at least 200 dates next year.
Wow.
And I do try to squeeze the teaching in every chance I can, whether it be giving a private lesson to a fan on the road or giving private lessons here out of my home or of course teaching via Truefire or Jam Track Central, you know, doing a video for them. So.
And so are you kind of born and brought up in Tennessee? Is that where you're from originally?
No, sir. I'm actually a Yankee. I was born in the state of Maine.
Oh, really? That's pretty much as far as you can get from Tennessee.
Yeah, something there in lobster country there, James.
Yeah, exactly. So when did you move to Nashville?
Actually, man, I moved to Nashville back in 1996, and at that time I had attended the University of Southern Maine for 3 years as a history major with a minor in elementary ed, and it seemed as though the state of Maine was helping me as a visually impaired guy to get through school, but it was really tough for me, and of course I've always had the desire to move to Nashville and of course play honky tonks and build my career.
So to talk about how did you get learning music? What was the thing that first got you started, and how did you progress from there?
Well, James, honestly, bud, I really do believe that my talent is a gift from God, because I never really worked hard on playing instruments. It was something that happened kind of freakishly. As I was 2 years old, my dad bought me a toy guitar, and I started jumping around the living room with it all the time. And the cool part is my Aunt Brenda come bringing my dad his father's 1939 J45 Gibson, which is a pretty sought-after guitar.
That's a nice guitar to get, yeah.
Yes, it is. And, of course, my dad really never played guitar. He was a drummer back in the 60s, and so I just kind of dragged that old beat-up guitar everywhere with me, and my dad would tune it to an open E chord, and I learned how to basically play with the guitar on my lap, sort of like Jeff Healey. And but man, I started doing family reunions and stuff when I was just 4 years old, and did my first TV show at 7. Formed a little band with my brother and sister called the 3 J's, and we won Talent America in New York City, and of course maintained with the 3 J's until I reached 15 and my voice started changing. And of course then at 12 years old I started playing lead guitar in country bands around the area, and then that led me to graduating high school, going on to college, and then saying, no, this is not for me, I need to go to Nashville.
And so what was the thing? So you kind of went the traditional kind of route of going to college and doing what most parents want their kids to do. And then obviously something kind of changed there, and you kind of felt, okay, actually I'm going to do the music thing. What was the thing that kind of put in your head, okay, I'm going to do this?
Well, I think it was really weird for me, because my parents were very upset at the fact that I left college. And of course every parent wants their child to have a wonderful formal education, and I was the, first honor essay in my high school class. I was president of the National Honor Society, and always really had great grades. My dad always said, if you don't pay, you don't play. So I did really well in school, but I found that I felt like I was actually going to college more so for my parents and for what the state wanted me to really do with my life. And to me, it was no surprise to my parents when I said I wanted to move to Nashville, because I had a pretty prosperous career as a youngster. And so it did shock me when they were a bit upset by my decision, but I'm really glad I made it.
And in those early years, who were the kind of the guitarists? Who were the names that you looked at and kind of aspired to being like?
Well, I'll be honest, man. My dad took me to see Ricky Skaggs when I was 10 years old, and Ricky Skaggs would be the guy that really inspired me to pick up an electric guitar and just totally fall in love with country guitar, the chicken picking thing, And of course, later, as I progressed in my playing, I learned to players like Albert Lee, Brent Mason, Danny Gatton, Jimmy Bryant. Gosh, there's so many, man. And of course, I'm not just a country player. I love all sorts of music. So I loved B.B. King and Stevie Ray Vaughan and Joe Satriani, Steve Vai, Yngwie Malmsteen. I was just a complete guitar head as a kid, and still am to this day.
And let's switch things up a little bit. Tell me about that. What does the first hour of your day look like? Whether you're at home or whether you're on the road. How does that change?
Well, actually, that's changed a little bit since I brought on Crush Worldwide to manage me. Before I would get up in the morning, the first thing I'd do is pop on coffee and check my emails, because I would get hired for sessions or lessons or the like, by checking my emails. And now, having new management on board with me, it's wonderful, man. I get up in the morning, pop on coffee, and the first thing I do is grab my guitar. And I've been, of course, writing for the new record, and and I think that's really what keeps me motivated in my career is that burning love for guitar all the time. It never goes away. I tell people my career is a 24-hour, 24/7 job, and not that it's a job. It's actually a massive love for me. I just love the instrument. I love everybody that's in the guitar realm. I love every genre of music, and I'm just really proud to be able to live a dream, by being in this guitar industry.
And it's so interesting, being where you are in Nashville. I was just talking to another guitarist, Jeff McCurlane, who actually teaches for Truefire and is a New York-based guitarist. And I asked him,
wonderful.
When I asked him a question, that if you were kind of starting from scratch, where would you kind of, how would you do it? And his very first thing he said, well, I wouldn't be in New York, I'd be in Nashville, because the scene, in terms of the places to play and where the players are, and he's not a country player, he's a blues guitarist, but he just said, a lot of things have moved, and I was on, I had the good fortune the other day, I was at Tommy Emmanuel's 60th birthday in the UK.
Yes,
and I know Tommy now has a home in Nashville as well. So there's so many great players that have moved there from other parts of the US, because it still seems like there's still a very good scene. It's while the recording side's going here, there, and everywhere, but it still seems there's a very good vibe there.
Well, I was really blessed to see that. Most people when they think of Nashville, Tennessee, they automatically think of country music, but Nashville is actually referred to as Music City, USA, and really that's what it is. It's a place where all professional musicians congregate, and whether you're playing rock, blues, jazz, country, there's a spot for you here in this town. I must say I have dreamed of living in Nashville since I was 7 years old, and when I moved here, this town was everything that I expected it to be. It's a real sincere pleasure and honor to be a part of the Nashville community now. Not so much, or not only just as a guitar player, but I really truly love the town. I love the people. The Southern folks just treat us Yankees really good, man. What can I say? It's I think there's a lot of my friends here in Nashville that are imports from other states, and I think we all share the same musical goals, so to speak, but yet we're kind of like a big musical family here in Nashville, and that really tickles me.
I remember the first times coming over there. Before, obviously, I lived in California for a while as well, but my first time coming over to Nashville was with I'm trying to remember. It was the bass player with Toto, David Hungate, who lives.
Oh yes,
who's in Nashville, and actually it was one of those first guys. I think it must have been the riots happened in '92 or thereabouts in LA, and a lot of session players came over at that point as well. There was a lot of the kind of influx of guys coming into Nashville. But I remember going to the Chet Atkins convention.
Oh,
which is
yes.
held every summer at the Sheraton there in Nashville.
Yes, sir.
And just getting a great feel about what a family, what a community of musicians there are in Nashville, which I hadn't really experienced in a lot of other cities. Like LA, obviously, is everything's quite spread out, and but Nashville, it definitely does feel like there's a family, there's a community of musicians there.
Very much so, man. I think I was very excited to hear that, Larry Carlton lived here, Adrian Blue, of course, Tommy Emmanuel. And I really have heard that a lot of rock artists and players are moving here to Nashville. And I think it's a wonderful thing, man. It broadens the spectrum of music here in Nashville, but at the same time, we're all music lovers here. So I think we all can share in the love. I think that's what makes Nashville so wonderful.
Awesome. So what would you say is your biggest weakness as a music artist and as a creative person?
James, I'll just say, bud, in my career, I've never looked at anything as failures. I've always looked at those as learning experiences. And to me, I think my biggest weakness was that I was that aw shucks country boy that always said yes to everything. I never said no to anybody or anything. And I found that I did get taken advantage of quite a bit. And when I married my lovely wife, Kimi, back in 2005, she was really the one that inspired me to say, hey, you have a validated career. You're Johnny Hiland. Now, stick up for what you believe in and really don't let anyone stand in the way of your dream. And I've really loved her motivational pep talks, if you will, and not only keeping me grounded, but also being the love of my life. I respect everything she says. And she's probably been the biggest blessing in my life. Totally. I love her dearly.
But that's quite. I see that as quite a recurring theme as well. I see with a lot of players where, they'll get their start, and sometimes, unfortunately, they are taken advantage of by record labels or managers. And then if they're lucky enough to meet a partner in their lives who can maybe help in their career, but also just help to have as a sounding board. I was the one that immediately comes to mind is Walter Trout and his wife. So she's I think she's looked after him. But I know a lot of managers who are now a lot of partners who are now the managers of those artists as well, because there's a lot of things that don't have to be said. I suppose when you have that level of trust, I see it also with fathers and sons, whether it's Tom Jones and his son managing him, or there's lots of those that keeping it in the family, I suppose.
Well, I've actually, as I told you, just signed on with Crush Worldwide, but you can rest assured I had Kimi at every meeting we had before I signed.
That's a smart move.
She really is my life partner, just as much as my best friend and lover. We're really, she's definitely my better half, James. I'll just say that. She's, but then again, she's always told me, she said, Johnny, I will never interfere with your music career. I'll just always support you and love you for what you do. And she, one of the things that made me really fall in love with her back in 2005 is she said, honey, I don't care if you, work Walmart. I don't care. I just love you for who you are. And your music is just another, an addition really to loving you the way I do. But she said, I really love you as the person you are. And I think that was the wonderful thing about Kimi that really spawned our relationship. But she's been there a lot for me in this music career as well. I mean, when I've needed her, she stepped up to the plate, and God love her, she's just a sweetheart. She really is. Everybody that knows Kimi in the business loves her to pieces.
And it's a thing a lot of the fans don't see, because they'll see you on the stage, or they'll see the artist on the stage, but they don't see all the giant support network that goes on behind the scenes to make, deliver that artist to that stage, to be able to put on a great show.
My first manager, Mac Wilson, was the man that really taught me that it takes a veritable army of good people to spawn a career, to make a career reach new heights. And I do have a veritable army of people that do work with me. I have wonderful endorsers that keep my gear up and running and that bless me with new products as they come out and keep me hip to the new guitar technology, because as you know, the technological advances in guitar have improved greatly over the years. And but here again, people that know me know the real Johnny Hiland. The Johnny Hiland that's talking to you now is I always tell people I'm just old hairy-legged guitar picker from Maine, you know. And you know, honestly, James, I've always loved every fan I have, man. I've been so blessed in this business to have a wonderful fan base. And I think getting back to the failure thing, for me, I think the biggest weakness that I've had also in the industry is that I never really got out touring the way I should when my career started. I think there was a level of my manager believing that my talent was good enough to where I shouldn't have to play the club circuit, you know, because I've paid my dues all these years playing honky tonks, and he said, you know, let's get you on stage with Sammy Hagar and Ted Nugent and Steve Vai and Les Paul and Ricky Skaggs and all these people that I've, you know, really looked up to over the years, and you know that would really help take my career to the next level. However, what really happened to me in the industry and what really took me away from the business for a while was I lost 14 family members from 2005 to 2007, including my mom and dad. I lost my dad in a boating accident in 2005, the day I was opening for Eric Johnson at the Tulsa Blues Fest. And I lost my mom a year and a half after that. And that really crushed me as a person. I think being a legally blind kid, you know, you're very dependent on your parents. And of course, they were pretty overprotective parents too. But then again, I say that loosely in the respect that my dad was, you know, he raced New England motocross. So even as a youngster, man, I had my own snowmobiles and dirt bikes, and Dad wanted me to be a normal kid as much as I could be. But they were overprotective, and I think that kind of has, you know, followed me in my career, where managers thought, well, maybe going on the road full time is not what Johnny needs to do, and you know, it scares him to be in different areas that he doesn't really know. But I'm really kind of starting over now with Crush Worldwide and really trying to get myself out on the road now, even though I'm 4 albums into my career and soon to be releasing the 5th. I think it's you have to tour to get out in front of fans, and I'm really looking forward to that.
But talk to me then about being legally blind. Obviously, there'll be challenges with that, especially when it comes to touring. But yes. Talk to me also about what the maybe the benefits are to, you know, what the strengths that maybe you have that you've had to develop over the years in order to be able to not just survive, you know, being legally blind, but actually to thrive as well.
Well, you know, I was telling a buddy of mine just yesterday. I said, you know, when I first moved to Nashville, I've virtually walked everywhere that I could, and if I fell, then I knew not to fall there again. You know, and I tell people, you know, doctors have told me, boy, it's a good thing you're a big guy, because you would have had a lot of broken bones, and I'm thankful that you know, that I haven't. But I really wanted to learn downtown Nashville. I wanted to be able to walk around and feel comfortable, you know, in the town that I've loved so many years, and I really feel I've done that. And I think the one blessing I must say is Kimi's always been there for me, but obviously she won't be going on the road with me full time, because somebody's got to work in this family, James. You know, she works for 3 hospitals and here in Nashville as an account specialist, and she's a very busy lady. But I do have a wonderful band that looks out for me, and I think that's a huge blessing. They try to keep their eye on me the best they can, and make sure, you know, oh, Johnny, watch that step, you know. And so I've been real blessed to have people around me that are very aware of my visual impairment and really try to help me maintain, if you will, in my career, so that I don't have any bad accidents or anything like that.
So would you say is your biggest strength your just, you know, stick-to-itness, you know, just kind of get on with
yes,
things?
No fear.
No fear.
And I knew going into this industry, James, that if I was going to become successful, that I had to get past that fear and say, okay, you know, most people get scared of change, or they get scared of the unknown. But I've looked at it as let's get her done. You know, let's get out there and get after it. It's been a dream for so many years that I would have virtually given anything to see it, you know, come to fruition. And I think, you know, since 2005 or 4 as my career started, I've really looked at it with massive vigor to say I'm not going to allow my handicap to stand in the way of my dreams.
So, Johnny, what is the one thing that you're working on just now that is exciting you the most?
Well, man, I have all kinds of irons in the fire. You know, James, I'm always working constantly on every element of the guitar industry that I can be a part of. So I'm always constantly thinking of the new teaching method that I need to show, and of course I'm writing the new record right now, which is really exciting for me. My last album came out in 2011, and so it's time to get a new record out there. And of course, having the new band, I'm gearing them up for the road, and we're rehearsing a lot, and of course having the new management. I guess you could literally say I've been kind of starting over. The one beautiful constant that I've had, even in the, as I told you, my parents passed away, and I did hit a wall of depression for a while. I slowed my career way down and basically had to rebuild myself, if you will. I had to realize that, okay, I had my lovely wife and life, but I've lost. I felt so alone not having my parents for advice and for, just to be there for me and to watch my career grow. And it was very sad for me. So now I really do feel I've started over. I really do feel that there's a whole new vigor in me and a motivation to get out to my fans. And I guess that's what I was pushing toward in our conversation, is that my fans have never stopped contacting me. There was always a place on my new website, johnnyhiland.net, where people could drop an email. And all my fans continued to do that. And I think my vigor and my motivation now has really grown from their excitement to see a new record come out and for me to get on the road. And just 3 or 4 days ago, I announced on Facebook that I was with New Management Booking. And man, within one day, we had 440 likes and about 70 comments of people going, "Come to Oregon, come to Texas, come to Australia, mate." And it's just been a blessing that the fans have always stuck in there with me and really believed in what I do and helped push me to regain that vigor again. And I'm very grateful to all of them. And I can definitely tell you're going to see that when I'm on the road, because I love my fans. I love the people that support me. And without their support, I wouldn't be able to do it. And so I'm very, very grateful.
So talk to me, you mentioned that you went through all those losses, going through all that, kind of reaching this low point, both emotionally and, probably in your career, things weren't happening. What was the kind of lowest point, and what was, more importantly, what was the thing that at that point then kind of made you go, actually, I need to kind of change here, or I need to take, what was the inflection point that then kind of brought you back up again?
Well, my honest answer, James, is Kimi and God. I really, when I reached that massive level of depression, I stuck my head in the Word of God. I stuck my head in the Bible, man, and really said, God, you've given me this talent, you've given me this gift, and I know that you want me to spread my wings with this career. I just don't know how to do it. And I said, God, you're going to have to, I'm relying on you to help me do this. Now, I know most people in today's society, I certainly don't judge people for how they believe in religion and whatnot, but I've always had a very close walk with God as a Christian and really believe that He's blessed my career all along. It was that low point where I really had to turn to Him and say, God, I turn to you here. There's so many people in the industry who will tell you what you should do, but they won't help bring it to fruition. And that's why I'm so blessed to have Crush Worldwide with me, because they're guys that have finally said, Johnny, you deserve this, bud. We're going to hit this as hard as we can. And with their excitement and my vigor combined, and of course Kimi's support and all my fan support, I don't really see how I can lose.
So talk to us about a time and then in your life you've gone through these momentous changes and this incredible journey and making it music, but can you just describe for us any kind of aha ideas or kind of light bulb moments in your life that kind of signaled to you that there was a change happening here, or that really kind of helped kind of that kind of inflection point in your life where you went, okay, this is what I need to do?
Well, I would say the biggest moment for me, or the biggest aha moment for me, was literally moving to Nashville. I think that was, and of course that's been 20 years ago now almost. It's pretty crazy that time has flown the way it has, but literally, man, to be a legally blind guy in Maine that was so close to my parents as far as their overprotectiveness, if you will, to take that leap and say, I'm going to get on a jet myself and move down to a huge city in Nashville from being in rural Maine, that was a huge step for me. I think that was the it was the aha moment, but yet I was still scared to death.
And did you know anyone in Nashville? I mean, that's a big thing for anyone, regardless of whether they're cited on
Actually, no, I did not know anybody in Nashville except the blessing that happened for me at that time is when I formally withdrew from school. I went home to visit my parents for 2 weeks, and of course, break the news to them and let them know that I was leaving. And people ask me, well, Johnny, you talk about your connection with God and all this, but it seems kind of, far-fetched. And I say, man, I have so many examples in my life where I can show you that God has stepped in. And one of the ways is that during those 2 weeks home, well, let me step back a little bit. Before I moved back home to say goodbye to my parents for the 2 weeks before leaving for Nashville, I had no idea of how to lay out the plan to even move to Nashville. I was I just hit 21 years old, but at the same time, my parents kind of always had a knowledge of what was going on in my life, and they were helping me direct myself, if you will. And so they sent an outreach worker from the state of Maine who was working with me hand in hand during my college times. And they got really angry and sent him down to my grandma's house where I was living, going to college. And he said, Johnny, why I'm here, your parents don't want you to leave school. And I said, well, I said, Chuck, I'm so sorry, man, but I have to. It's just, I can't look in this monitor typing term papers for college and looking at the guitars under the bed. I'm literally playing guitar almost, 16 hours a day and doing my studies as, quickly as I can to get to bed, to get up for class the next day. I said, man, my burning passion is to get to Nashville. And I took him into the bedroom of my grandma's house, and I said, Chuck, you can pick out any CD in this collection, and I'll play it just like the record. And so he picked out Alan Jackson's I'm in Love with You, Baby, and Don't Even Know Your Name, and I knew Brent's solo, obviously, on that song. And then he picked Joe Satriani's One Big Rush, and I played it note for note and matched the tones. And before I was done that meeting, James, he bought my plane ticket. Which really sent my parents into anger, and so, I mean, it just sent them over the edge with anger. But I go back home, tell my parents that I have my plane ticket and I'm leaving in 2 weeks. And then my buddy Sid MacArthur called and he said, Johnny boy, now just for those of you listening, Sid MacArthur gave me my first country band gig when I was 12. And we had a band called Standing Room Only up in Maine, and we played a lot of shows around, my hometown and, of course, the surrounding areas, and very little, good little successful band. But he called me within those 2 weeks and said, Johnny boy, I'm down in Orlando, Florida, and I just got back from Nashville. He said, buddy, we could have a ball there. And I said, oh my gosh, dude, I just left school and I'm actually going down. I'm heading to Nashville. And he said, why don't you head to Orlando, Florida and meet up with me and we'll go together. And really, that's how God's worked in my life, James. He's really just aligned things, because obviously being with Sid, he knew of my blindness. We'd worked together so many years. So I felt way more comfortable, coming to Nashville with Sid. And of course, we did what we were hoping to do. We drove into Nashville, got a hotel, went down on the Strip and on Lower Broadway, and just started playing everywhere we could. By that next day, we had a gig.
So you've worked with some amazing artists as well as being signed to Steve Vai's label. You've also worked with Joe Satriani, Joe Bonamassa, Les Paul. But what's the best piece of advice that you've ever received about music, about making it in music?
Well, I would have to answer that by saying Vince Gill is one of my heroes, and I know there was a time in my career where I was pretty frustrated with how things were going. And Vince always just said, Johnny boy, don't stop being who you are. Don't stop being Johnny Hiland. People love you for who you are. They believe in your talent. And buddy, you just got to keep on with the keeping on. Stay true to yourself. Continue to make your music. Continue to strive for your dreams and never give up on them, because one day it's going to break for you. And literally, that was the best advice I could have ever received. And of course, Les Paul told me the same thing. Sammy Hagar told me the same thing. Steve Vai has been a massive blessing in my life, signing me to my first record deal. of course, these are all heroes of mine. So to be able to call them a friend, and to be able to call on them for advice, and I think that's been one of the biggest blessings since my guitar solo career has started, was having a lot of my heroes as friends and being able to call them a friend. Now, most people would say, well, they haven't got you on the road and they haven't done this and that for you. But literally, just to be able to talk to them when you're frustrated or when you're down, they'll always help bring you back up to that vigorous momentum where you keep going and you just, nothing holds you back. So that really has been the biggest blessing for me. And I thank each and every one of those artists. In fact, I just played on Noki Edwards' new record too, and Noki's been an absolute blessing in my life, man. He's a sweet guy. Him and Judy are just wonderful people. And another one, as you mentioned, Tommy Emmanuel. Every time I see Tommy, it's, he's always given me a big old hug and always just been a great person to know. And another one of those people I look up to.
Yeah, I mean, there's guys like Tommy. Not only are they wonderful musicians and performers, but they're just great people to be around as well. Very positive, look at life, and Tommy's had his fair share of troubles and things that when things haven't worked out, but just seeing how people respond to those things and how they.
Well, James, a lot of people have said, well, Johnny, you still haven't reached where you want to be in the music industry. No, but I don't really look at anything as a failure. I look at it as a learning experience, and I'm thankful for those times.
Yeah.
So you grow off of those. And I think having the connection with a lot of my guitar heroes, we all know that life is going to have ups and downs. We're going to face bad times in life. It's how you choose to deal with those that is really the big key. I think my fans know, my management knows, my wife knows, and all the guitar heroes that I have, they all know that no matter what, Johnny Boy is going to stick on that smile and hug a fan and thank them for buying my records and keeping me out there. When you have that, that kind of support, you really just can't go wrong. You have to really be thankful for the blessings that you do have and not really, dwell on the past failures. I think we always need to look forward to the future and take it with stride.
And you talked earlier about some of those companies that you endorse, some of the products you use, and they're always kind of sending you kind of cool stuff to try out. So do you have any kind of gear or even apps or things that you're using just now that you're really loving using?
Buddy, I could be here for 2 hours giving you a list of those. Honestly, if you were to put it online, I would say my two favorite things I rely on is Pro Tools, #1, and Facebook. Facebook has been one of those things where I can reach out to my fans and give them updates on what's going on outside of my website, which, I think one of the things that's blessed me with Facebook is people see the connection that I have with my wife. And fans really love that because you don't see that on a website. When you can really show fans who you are as a person, and they already love you for your playing, and they come to your shows, and they bless your life and send you gifts here and there, and they just support your career. For them to see the personal side of you as well, and they love that side too, it just makes your whole career in general that much better. And so I'm really grateful for Facebook being there and being a resource for artists like me to use. It's been wonderful. And
I mean, there's a great lesson there. It's something I tell a lot of musicians when they're thinking about social media and how to use social media, because we have these amazing tools with Facebook, Twitter, Periscope. There's new ones starting all the time. Is finding that balance, because if you're just constantly saying buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, that's not very interesting. But as you say, if you can blend that with the real you, the authentic you, and bring them into your life, and it's it transforms that relationship. And it's, even if you just do a little test, this is for the listeners out there. Just do a little test. If you're finding some of your links aren't necessarily getting kind of great likes or views, switch things up a little bit. Try and add something like a more personal thing, and then go back and look at they have this thing called Facebook Insights. Look at the stats on that and see how that's affected. I think you'll be surprised at how things change if you just kind of switch up what you're sharing all the time. It doesn't always have to be about just saying, I've got this new album out, I've got this new date happening.
Exactly.
You can switch up a bit, have a bit of fun with it.
Well, and that's literally what I've done. And I really just did it by accident. And I say by accident because, recently I had within a few years, I had a fan actually send me an iPad mini. And he said, Johnny, this might help you, buddy, with your typing and trying to stay online, And so they sent me and my wife both an iPad mini, which has been a blessing because we've been able to FaceTime while I'm on the road. And, of course, it has helped me to be able to type better and hold it up to my face so I can see it, And so, it's been really within the last year that I really got hip to Facebook as far as being able to type on there myself. And it's been a blessing, man, because I am a very open person as far as I want my fans to know what's going on in my life. But it isn't always about pushing the newest product down their throat. It's for an example, my wife drives me to local shows when I'm here in town. I know she works all day. She's very tired, She works a 40-hour-week job and sometimes more. So for her to come home from work exhausted and then take me to a gig and sit there the whole time and support me the way she does means the world to me. And so I'll put up something on Facebook, thanking her for being a blessing to my life and how much I love her, and put up a picture of she and I together, and people just love that stuff.
Absolutely. And
it's so sure, you'll see that, a thing about my lovely wife and I. You'll see funny pictures of her and I out, and then you'll see me saying, hey, folks, go check out my new signature V-Pick.
Yeah.
Or, hey, folks, just released a new Jam Track Central course, please go get you one. I think you'll learn a lot from it. And so, yeah, mixing it up with the personal stuff, and then of course promoting what you do. I think I think you're right. You have to spread it out and mix it up a little bit.
So if you could only recommend one record or book to our listeners, what would it be?
Wow, that's a tough one, James. I would say for any guitar player that really wants to get into chicken picking, or that really wants to see the versatility within chicken picking, which most people wonder what chicken picking is, but it's definitely the country style of playing guitar. Danny Gatton did a record with Joey DeFrancesco called Relentless. Of course, Danny, as you all know, is, he's really my biggest guitar hero of all time. And that record, man, is, he plays jazz, he plays some blues licks, he puts country in everything, and he's using more of a country tone with a Telecaster. And that record, to this day, inspires me. If I feel I get up and I'm in a bad mood, I pop that record on. If I want inspiration to write a new song, I'll pop that record on. To me, that is my go-to album right now, to where it keeps my vigor alive for wanting to learn new things on guitar. And having a hero like Danny Gatton, man, I don't think I'll ever be able to play exactly like him. But at the same time, that's the record that really keeps me up and helps me stay positive.
Well, we'll definitely put that on the show notes. And if you haven't heard Joey DeFrancesco as well, great kind of Hammond organ player, and
wonderful,
really great stuff to listen to. So we'll put that on the show notes as well. So let's imagine if you woke up tomorrow morning and had to start from scratch. So all you have is your guitar and the knowledge you have acquired over your years of music. What would you do? How would you restart?
How would I restart? Well, the first thing I would do is really put my talent in check and make sure that I have the skills to pursue the dream, or following the dream, if you will. Then the next thing I would do would be to seek out someone who knows the industry, who is a manager style person that can, that knows the ropes and knows the, what's hip in the business today, about how to handle yourself in, whether you need a record label or you can put something out independently, or someone that just knows the industry inside and out. I think that is one of the biggest keys, especially when you're a small town country boy from the state of Maine like me. I needed to find someone who knew the industry. And it literally took my first manager, Mac Wilson, too, to make me realize that I wanted to be a guitar artist. So sometimes good managers can help you find your strengths and lead you to new heights in your career you never thought imaginable. So having that person is crucial. And then I guess the next thing I'd do is form a band and start writing songs for a first record. I think within the first 7 days of starting over, that's exactly how I would do it.
That's great. I mean, I think that finding a good manager is a very important thing, depending on what stage you're at in your career. They're very hard to find, as we all know.
They are. They are.
I remember when I managed a lot of artists of the years back. I managed Tommy Emmanuel when he first left Australia. I managed Tommy for about five years when he first came to the UK, and a lot of other artists I've kind of worked with over the years. A lot of big pop artists, and at its best, it's like a marriage, and it's it wouldn't be unusual. I'd be speaking to artists, 10 to 12 times a day. My artist on the phone 10 to 12 times a day, because it's a very, very close relationship, and you really kind of help support each other, and hopefully it's very successful. But finding that right person is a tricky one.
Well, and I'll say this, man. People will say, "Well, wow, Johnny, you're on your third management team." Yeah, I really am, But I will say this, I really don't choose to look at things that have happened in my career with management as being a failure, or, oh my gosh, the so-called marriage to the management client didn't happen. It just didn't work. I learned a lot from every manager I've worked with thus far, and I've learned a lot about this industry as far as being the right kind of artist, how to represent yourself. Because really the last 2 or 3 years I've managed myself, and it has been excruciatingly hard, trying to keep creative on guitar and handling all the emails and booking the gigs, booking shows, keeping myself in magazines and keeping myself out there in the media. It has been excruciatingly hard for me to stay creative on my instrument while I'm trying to handle all of these other things. Because there, as most people know, there's a lot to keeping a career going, and trust me, folks, I've learned firsthand, you really cannot do it by yourself.
Yeah,
you can't.
It definitely takes a team, and I think as well, if it's a good manager, they should also, not all managers not all managers are the same in terms of where they're working with artists, and if it's a good manager, they should also know when an artist is progressing so fast in their career and so well, when is a time maybe to hand them over to another manager, because some managers are great at handling different artists at different stages in their career, and I think artists should feel quite comfortable about that. If things are really going, and maybe they need a different type of manager, or maybe they're moving into a different type of thing, or they're moving country, or so I don't think that's a weakness to identify, maybe when you want to have the right people, because ultimately you want to have a great team around you.
Yes.
And sometimes that does mean changing the team up. If you're a guitarist, if you're going out doing a tour, like as a one-man solo artist doing a certain type of thing, then that requires probably a very different kind of tour manager stroke sound engineer than if you're going out with a 20-piece band. So it's just like choosing the right people, choosing the right tools, choosing the right team members to be able to work with.
Well, but I don't look at it as a bad thing when people say, "Oh man, you're going on your third management team." No, I look at it as a wonderful thing, because over time, as I've grown in my career, my emphasis has changed on my goals and how I look at things, and how I want to approach my career. I think there's different levels of your career as you grow, that you do have to seek out people who have that same vigor and interest and can help you get to the level you want to be. However, I try to tell people, the managers that have managed me before, I didn't fire them and just, say, "Oh, I'll never speak to you again."
Yeah.
It didn't end badly. I think it's just, as growth happens, people change, people come, you weed people in and out of your career. But I really try to stay friends with all people in the industry, because it's, Mac Wilson helped me a great deal. Michael Clare helped me a great deal. There was, sure, were there downfalls to each one of those things? Sure. I mean, managers try really hard to build an artist up, and sometimes it just doesn't work out in the way that they would hope. And so, but I don't really consider that a failure. I say, hey man, you gave it your best, and I appreciate that. And so I do really give thanks to all the managers I've had, because it's really, they've taught me a lot. They've helped, take my career to the level they were able. And I'm really grateful for all the people I've had in my career. So I don't look at that as a bad thing at all.
I think sometimes, you just need like a fresh set of legs, as they say. Sometimes as an artist goes up, maybe the manager's the same age as the artist, and things develop over time. But then, you want maybe a newer manager comes in who's maybe younger, has got different ideas as well. And I've seen that work really well, especially with artists who are a little bit older, and they'll bring in a younger guy who might be in his 20s or his 30s who just has a fresh approach, and it just kind of revitalizes that artist's career. So
I'll say this too, James. I'm the type of artist, man, that I still love to go out and buy a CD. I like to put the physical CD in my hand. And even though I'm legally blind, I still love to have the record jacket. I like to look at the pictures in there of the recording process and who played on what tracks. But as you and I both know, our industry has changed. The digital download age is huge right now. So I really needed to, one of the biggest blessings for me being with Crush Worldwide now is I'm so excited to have John Herring and Jerry Navarro as my managers now. And part of that reason is because they understand the state of our industry today. And so, yeah, Johnny comes from the old school of wanting the physical disc in my hand, but we know that, a lot of record stores have closed down. Now the way you buy CDs is on Amazon or what have you. But I still think in that kind of old school mentality of be an artist, build your fan base, create a buzz in the business, get out in the media, form a band, put out a record, go on tour to support it. But then again, man, our industry has literally completely changed now. And so it's been important for me to find management that understands where we are in our industry today and what my next step should be. And so I'm very blessed to have Crush Worldwide, man. They're fantastic guys. We're brand new together, but I sincerely look forward to what the future holds, man. I think these guys are the right team for me.
Great, Johnny. So share the best ways that listeners can connect with you and can learn more about the new album that's coming out and the tour dates and your teaching as well.
Well, man, my website is www.johnnyhiland.net, and that is Hiland, like saying hi to the land. And that is really the best way to find out anything about me as an artist. The products that I have available. I mean, I'm real blessed to have a new signature cowboy hat coming out with Atwood hats out of Texas, and which is a big dream of mine too. I've always, any artist that wears a, Western apparel like I do, to have a signature hat means a lot, man. It's part of your look. And,
yep.
And, so I have so many wonderful things happening in my career, and that website is the best way to find out, or you can check me out on Facebook. I'm a part of Facebook, and I love it, and I pretty much update things the best I can, even though my life is getting more crazy as we speak. But that's the best one.
Well, Johnny, I'll put those show notes down there and the links and everything so people can check those out. It's been great speaking to you. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been great hearing about your journey in music, and I really look forward to seeing what happens next and the new album and the new tour, and it's great. Thanks for your time today.
Man, it's such a pleasure, bud, and I'd love to tell all my fans out there, be looking for me next year, because I'm going to come to a town near you real soon. And, just appreciate the support all the way around from all my endorsers, my management, my wife, the good Lord above, all my fans, and of course, people like you, James. I'm really grateful to be a part of the show.
Thanks, Johnny.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it.
Hey, James Taylor here again. And if you're interested in living a more creative life, then I'd love to invite you to join me as I share some of the most successful strategies and techniques that high-performing creatives use. I put them all together in a free downloadable ebook that you can get by going to jamestaylor.me. That's jamestaylor.me to get your free downloadable ebook on creativity.